And we are live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm one of your co-hosts, Blake Ruffino. Alongside me is a very sick but still battling Joe DeLeone. Good evening, good sir. How are you?
I'm doing great. If anyone can't immediately tell, I had some weird cold that completely kicked my ass this weekend, and my voice is almost back, but I sound like shit. So I'm sorry to everyone who has to not get to be graced by my normally silky smooth voice that everyone comes to listen to.
You don't have a silky smooth voice.
Stop it. Don't take that from me.
I'm Branch Wilder. Do you know that movie?
No.
Angels in the Outfield. By the way, I've watched just, to tell you how my week before week 0, which, by the way, week 0 starts tomorrow, I might add. We're in week 0. College football is back. Congratulations. We have made it. I feel like I have watched Rookie of the Year with Henry Roland Gardner at least 782 times this past week. We need the season to get here. I can name every single word of that movie line for line as it comes out. So if you want to know what kids is like, you can either be Horace or you can watch Rookie of the Year 782 times. Which one do you
I think I would rather watch a movie over and over again, because I got to be completely honest. Friday, Saturday, the degree that I couldn't talk was so bad that I had people call me and I had to tell them, like, I'm hanging up the phone. I literally can't get any words out. Not being able to speak might be one of the most daunting things that I've ever encountered. Because, like, seriously, all I do all day is talk, Blake. Not being able to talk for 2 days has been weird. Imagine if I can never talk again. I'm screwed. The show goes. It disappears.
No, I'll be here. We've worked.
No. You won't have me to argue with. There's no replacing this chemistry.
Oh, yes.
There's no replacing this.
You'll have to learn sign language, and we'll just have the first deaf mute podcast, college football podcast. You'll do sign language.
That would be the worst podcast on the planet. You yelling at a mute. That would be the worst podcast ever.
230-pound man yells at mute deaf dude. I mean, you're damn right. I'll still yell at you.
Nice casual way of flexing your weight loss.
Yes. 230.
Is that what you're down to? Is that really what you're down to? Hell yeah, that's awesome. Holy shit.
Yeah, when I saw you in New York, I was 300.
I mean, that's got to be 70 pounds. That's night and day. That's insane, dude. Congrats.
Trying to get to 200 before Christmas, and then I'm going to eat every single dessert that Grandma serves.
And you're going to be getting all I don't know if you noticed this. People keep calling me small in the comments. And it's like, you should have seen me when I was playing. You're going to start getting those comments when you get to 200.
Good.
They're going to start calling you small. I know.
Call me swole.
People act like being called small is a mean thing to say. It's a compliment.
Very much a compliment when you've packed around a lot of weight. But You know who is probably packing around a lot of weight right now? University of Michigan, as Cody does send in a super chat, which we'll get to in just a moment. But Joe, the ruling has come down on the University of Michigan's and the Connor Stalions investigation. $20 million fine, along with multiple show causes for Harbaugh and Stalions that are involved in this. And I'm just going to come out here and say this. From the very beginning, I think it's complete dog shit that this is all they got. Now, I know I'm in the minority, and I'm going to be chill because I've said a lot on this, but Michigan's fine, and Michigan's determination of this, and the NCAA coming out and stating why they only gave them this level of penalty. Your thoughts on this entire situation?
All right, so the first thing that's going to get brought up with this is a lot of people are going to be questioning, why is there no future postseason ban? In this long report, I did not read the whole thing. I'm not going to torture myself with reading the 70+ pages that is this report, but they stated the panel determines that a postseason ban would unfairly penalize student athletes for the actions of coaches and staff who are no longer associated with the Michigan football program. Thus, a more appropriate penalty is offsetting financial penalty. I think that we need to remind ourselves here the world that the NCAA now lives in. They can't issue a punishment that will impact current and future student athletes for making money. They can't. It is only going to open the door for more complex and awful litigation that they can't defend. This is the world that we are now in, Blake, that they have to handle things these ways. They can't issue punishments unless there is something so egregious and awful to future impact of what a program can do down the line. That's the way that I'm reading this. The vacation of wins, I was doing a guest spot on Mad Dog Sports Radio earlier, and the host brought up typically only applies in circumstances when there were ineligible players playing in the game. None of the players were deemed ineligible. This had everything to do with the coaching staff and the orchestration of things that they've done. I'm going to get to reiterating something I've brought up a million times over as this conversation continues. Before we get there, I want to emphasize that I think we need to reframe this punishment. I know that Michigan fans are excited about this, but this is far worse than people realize. In the era of revenue sharing, they are foregoing revenue sharing for the next 2 seasons, essentially, where they're foregoing money that they'll be making off of revenue sharing off of this money that they have to pay to the NCAA, $35 million. That is $35 million they do not have on roster spending. Larry Ellison can't step in and pay that. It's not how that works. He can provide NIL money, which he's done in the past, but that he can't make up for the lack of money that they do not have in revenue sharing. So those are my biggest things with addressing why those were not a part of the punishment that was given to them.
If they can spend $2 million a year plus for a quarterback, they can go out there and get them up to where everybody else is at with NIL. I mean, they can because they just did it. I mean, Joe, they're going to spend $2.5 million on a quarterback that might – I mean –
we're assuming that Ellison's going to do – like, what? He's not –
Ellison's not the only person. Ellison's not the only Michigan alum. Well, he's not even a Michigan alum, but he's not the only person that will give and continue to give and say, hey, they popped us during the Stallions thing. We need your help. I completely I don't agree with that because, I mean, we've seen situations where they'll come out and do that. That's number one. Here's the problem that I have with Michigan. This should not be over because you have arguably they're trying to wrap everything up without the Matt Weiss situation ending. Joe, they should be hit with a lack of institutional control. In reference to the vacated wins, fine. In reference to talking about future players and future coaches that weren't on the roster. 2 years ago, you hit Brian Kelly when he had nothing to do with it at LSU. You hit Tennessee with it 2 years, and Heupel had nothing to do with it. So what is the determination here? How are you going to hit other programs during the NIL era?
When that was at the beginning of the NIL era.
I don't care. Why would I, Joe? Why would I care?
They can't sit in the past.
Joe, they cheated.
I'm going to get to that in a second. I'm going to get to that part.
We have a 70-page report where they pretty much determined that they gave Tennessee signs to South Carolina. South Carolina that year beat Tennessee in an upset. It's proven. So before we do any of this and try to defend them, they cheated. They got caught. All right, they came out in a determination and said that they legitimately were throwing away evidence, disregarding evidence. Joe, there's a federal crime that's going on right now on the University of Michigan with Matt Weiss. They tampered with evidence. If a federal court determines that any part of that with Weiss was a part of Stalions, Sherrone Moore, or Harbaugh, they can go to jail because hold on. Connor Stalions tossed his phone, did he not?
Wait, I'm just confused. Hold on a second. Wait, but I'm really confused though. How does Matt Weiss tie into these things?
Stay with me. Did he toss his phone per the NCAA? Yes or no?
Evidence was destroyed. I don't remember.
Okay. How do I know that Matt Weiss wasn't talking to Stalions and Sherrone Moore about some of the things that he was doing along with the University of Michigan? When you're destroying evidence and you're doing things, if I'm an investigator, how do I know what was going on?
It's like a huge leap, though.
It's not a leap. As someone who's been in that world, if people are already going after evidence and they're destroying evidence, how do I know? You have a disregard for rule and order and law. And you legitimately had 3 massive infractions that went on at Michigan while Harbaugh was in control. Joe, I got to be real with you. This is dog shit.
Okay, but these are all separate issues.
They're not.
They do all come into the conversation. I've said this before. and I have agreed with you that there is a real opportunity for them to be hit with some form of lack of institutional control. I think that the Weiss investigation, is that for certain?
Yeah, you got to have multiple grade 1, level 1 allegations, and you have to give them a notice of allegations of lack of institutional control.
Okay,
they've already determined it.
My point that I was going to say though, the Weiss situation is so complex that I don't think we're going to get any sort of punishment from the NCAA anytime soon if there is one that's delivered. Well, that issue is very complicated. I think it's a little bit too far to jump to some conclusion that Sherrone Moore and Connor Stalions were tied to what Matt Weiss was doing. I find that hard to believe because I think that what he was doing was so incredibly effed up. Who the hell is going around bragging about that to his coworkers? I don't think that was happening.
That part doesn't matter. What matters is that they destroyed evidence to cover up something small. So now when they have something big that's
I don't think that they knew. I really don't think that they knew.
You don't think that Harbaugh that covered up the things for Stalions wouldn't cover up some things for a guy that could get him in a federal investigation?
But how would Harbaugh find out that stuff was happening?
Joe, people talk. Whistleblowers came forward.
Okay,
the reason Weiss got caught was because a whistleblower came forward on his staff. It is in the report if you want to go read it. A whistleblower on his staff came forward. You cannot convince me that he did not know in the beginning if a whistleblower is on his staff.
Okay, but from that, I'm not relitigating this conversation, by the way, because it's going to take us down a very completely different conversation.
Okay,
but
fair.
That whole situation, Blake, it was investigated by the university, and then he was put on leave. There's criticism over Harbaugh's timeline of when he put him on leave. That, I think, is a completely separate issue. But what you're basically implying is that he knew before said whistleblower or said investigation or any of those things. That I think is fair.
Then how do you describe them asking in the report about him putting them on leave? Thank you.
Wait, no. Just because I paused for a second does not mean that I'm admitting that you're correct.
You can't.
You're making it seem. I find it really hard to believe because
fair.
I find it very hard to believe that Harbaugh would have known about this because the only way that he finds out is that if someone caught Weiss and then told Harbaugh. There's no way that Weiss was
come out and say, in my vision, you can't come out and say that there's a very iffy timeline on this with Weiss and say that he didn't know if the timeline is iffy. That's number one. But Joe, you have multiple situations. Tony Petitti came out 2 weeks ago and said, "Let this be over." Joe, this is what if you want this to be over after they blatantly cheated. And you have a whole different situation that's going on. I mean, Joe, I know that there's a lot of money, and I think you bring up a really interesting point with the TV revenue. I got to be real with you. Then that's a slap on the wrist of flat out cheating. I mean, it's a slap on the wrist because you were a coach and you were in an institution in a place where you were constantly losing. All of a sudden, in a flip of a switch, you started winning and having undefeated regular seasons. We come out to find out that Connor Stalions was stealing signs. I mean, what else do we need that they cheated? Vacating wins? How about this? How about something that benefited you that was illegal to get wins?
Okay. The way that I have always tried to approach this conversation, I have never said that they are not cheating by doing this. But if anyone wants to go back to the previous segments where we've had these conversations, I would like to point out that I was very correct in what this punishment was. I said that it was going to be financial.
You were.
And I had said that there would be no vacation wins, there'd be no postseason, all these things. And the simple aspect for it, and I have talked to a lot of people about this. I've talked about journalists who have covered this closely. I have talked to college football players who have been a part of coaching staffs that have had their own, not the same. I'm not saying that other schools have been did the sign stealing scheme the same way where they were filming sidelines to any degree. But I've talked to college football players that have been on teams that had coaching staffs that were notorious for elite defenses that were known for utilizing the concept of sign stealing in order to prepare themselves and to outcoach their opponents and out-scheme their opponents. The concept of utilizing an opponent's signs is rampant across the sport. I think that if we're going to deliver some immense punishment, like huge punishment to the degree of a vacation of wins that they have to give back their national title, all of those things, we would have to open up an even bigger investigation across all these other college programs. It has been something that has been prevalent in the sport that needed to be resolved with in-helmet communication decades ago. What they did that was wrong and that was cheating is that they took it a step way further than they should have. What Connor Stalions absolutely did was wrong. But the point of the matter is that they did something that is done across the sport that coaching staffs most take part in to a degree, and that Michigan was just better at it than them. And they got in trouble for it, and they got caught. And they also got caught trying to not get caught by destroying evidence. The destruction of evidence feels like where they are getting punished the most. Like, I think that where I keep bringing this back up and reverting it back to is that it's not as serious as people make it out to be. And this is where you and I keep yelling at each other. I don't think
it is as serious.
I don't.
Joe, approximately 7.5% of people on the road every day are under the influence of narcotics. Just because a half of 1% gets caught doesn't mean that the other 6.5% deserve to be on the road.
That is a straw man argument that you're trying to use.
It's not a straw man argument
because you're trying to divert the attention to a really extreme situation.
He was on the sidelines with glasses that recorded signs for Michigan State. I don't have other staff members doing that. I don't have proof of other staff members doing that.
But we don't know that, though. We don't know. We don't know if other schools haven't gone this far.
Do you have evidence?
I don't. I actually technically don't. I do have evidence that Michigan did this, but we don't know that other schools didn't try to do this shit.
I don't know. Is my internet going down, Joe? Can you hear me?
You were frozen with a very iconic image of you yelling at me. You're good now. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you now.
Okay.
But, I don't
continue your point.
I can't. I don't even remember because all I see is a frozen face.
Okay. Well, you're coming through fine right now. The point that I'm merely trying to reiterate here and to reemphasize, I don't think that the NCAA deemed what they did to be something that it was so irregular that it deserved a huge punishment. That's my read on it. And that was where my argument has led. Did I lose you? No. Yes. All right. I'm going to give Blake a second to come back in here. And while we do that, I'm going to read the comments where it appears like a lot of people are disagreeing with me. Thank you, everybody who sent in super chats. We have a lot of them. Cody McGee's first one: Michigan punishment is ridiculous. NCAA should make Michigan forfeit national championship, take away scholarships, and 4 years of bowl bans. Thoughts? Again, the bowl ban stuff, and Cody, you had a second one. In the years 2002 to 2010, Miami got hit with sanctions because of a booster for improper benefits to players, and they had scholarship and bowl bans. Michigan gets a wrist slap. What Miami got hit with was something that at the time was considered to be unbelievably wrong in the scope of what college football was. Nowadays, the ability to pay players and to reward them obviously is no longer such a serious issue at all, by no means. So they can't frame things in the past with the current version of college football being the way that it is. They just can't. And that was one of the things that was emphasized in the reporting on this, in the report that was done, is that the college football landscape that we're in right now has completely evolved. So the punishment needs to be evolving with it. It is. It is changing in a completely different trajectory, as I brought up at the beginning, that they can't give out a bowl ban for future teams, for future players, because then those players can come around, put together a group of all the members in the team, and sue the NCAA for lost profits. The NCAA is going to lose money off of that. The other part about this that I think, and that was almost a very bad voice crack by me. The other part about this, and I'm sad that Blake's going to miss me bringing this up. This is my real conspiracy theory take here. We talk about a lot how the NCAA, the landscape as a whole, the changes in what has happened over the past 5 years. So let's just look at the 5 years alone. Conference realignment, college football playoff expansion, those things almost specifically. And NIL is not really related. They have been quietly, behind closed doors, influenced by broadcast networks. Simply enough. Very simply. We can't deny that. The Pac-12 dissolved because of Fox, ESPN, CBS having an ability to throw around weight that they have. I would not be shocked, and I doubt there will ever be reporting on this because all of the people that would report on this have some sort of a tie to all of these broadcasting networks or have a desire to eventually work for one of these broadcast networks because they have the most money to end up paying them the biggest contracts. I wouldn't be surprised to find out that Fox, ESPN, CBS would not feel the need to influence the fact that they don't want to see Michigan out of the mix. They make more money when Michigan is in the bowl game mix, when they're in the college football playoff mix, especially ESPN is rewarded by the fact that Michigan is relevant. They're rewarded by the fact that Michigan is in the running to be in the college football playoff mix. With the financial penalties, they can still be in the running. They probably won't get there, but they will still be in the running. And then in 2 years after that is passed, third year of Bryce Underwood, they're in the Big Ten championship game, and Fox makes money off of that. It's part of the reason why I think that we suddenly saw this aggressive shift in the way that Tony Petitti was handling this stuff. He has to, and he was coming out swinging. We all remember this when he was first hired and the way that he was going about this. He was coming out swinging, trying to punish Michigan the way that he was going to. And now all of a sudden, he is getting on his knees, hoping that Michigan is not given too big of a punishment. Blake, I was just bringing up my conspiracy theory here.
Am I back?
Yes.
Are we back? Are we back in the flesh?
Yes,
I blame Harbaugh. I mean, they already did stuff to electronics before once.
I was answering a couple of Cody's 2 questions. I didn't get to any of the other ones. I was bringing up something that I think that you would find intriguing, and this kind of completely diverts the discussion.
Okay.
I really think that this punishment was light because Fox and ESPN had a say in what the punishment was. Because if Michigan's out of the Big Ten championship game over an extended period of time, and it also diminishes the quality of their victories, it hurts them. It hurts their bottom line. If they're out of the mix of the college football playoff, it hurts them. They want one of the biggest brands in college football to be relevant because it helps their product of what they're broadcasting. We'll never find that out, but I really do think that that had something to do with this.
Did you see they popped a women's tennis team for tampering? The NCAA did. You remember that?
Yes.
Why are you coming down tougher on other smaller sports that don't make money more than you are with the University of Michigan?
It doesn't matter.
I don't think your conspiracy is wrong. I mean, look, when it comes down to it, when it just comes down to it, I think Harbaugh knew. I think that they found a way to orchestrate it. I think they took it too far. And the bottom line remains is that they cheated. Regardless if everybody else does it or not, they got caught cheating. And I don't disagree that Fox and ESPN and CBS had something to do with this. Why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't
they? Definitely did.
Let me ask you this question. How dumb is it that they gave Sherrone Moore an extra game suspension and they're making him serve it in the beginning of next season instead of against Oklahoma?
But this all paints the picture that I'm trying to get at. All the dots freaking connect. And one of the things that I brought up when you were reconnecting, no one's going to report on this because all of the reporters who typically cover this stuff are either working for Fox and ESPN and CBS Sports, or they all have an aspiration to eventually. We're never going to get this information. That is a really good point about the Sherrone Moore thing. Like, seriously, all of our problems need to be directed at being upset with the networks that are broadcasting these games because they are throwing around their weight in the influence of how these things are handled.
I think, look, here's just the truth. I thought they should have had a postseason ban, to be honest with you. That's just where I sit. I know people don't like that, but speaking of playoffs, Joe, did you see this? Speaking of playoffs, by the way, everybody do us a favor, hit the like and share to all those groups if you're on Facebook and to all the social media pages. You're watching us, listening to us on YouTube, like, subscribe, notification bell, wherever you listen to podcasts, rate, review, and subscribe. Every show is brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. Preseason, look, week 0 is this week, Joe. So if you got your preseason odds and you want to get on this, you better start getting on them now over at FanDuel. You have a problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or go to FanDuel.com/RG. It's FanDuel.com/RG for that assistance. But, Joe, speaking of playoffs, let's get to this. Did you see that there was a proposal by the Big Ten in quote-unquote very early talks for there to be an expanded playoff? I got to be real with you. I want Tony Petitti fired. I want him fired. He is a TV guy. He is not a sports guy. Continuously going out there asking to expand the playoffs is absolutely asinine. He tried to do it with the AQ model and failed, but here he goes again. But I kick it over to you. Your thoughts on Tony Petitti and the Big Ten pushing for an expanded 24 to 2018 playoff?
Well, I do think that bringing up that he's a TV guy is an important take, and it comes back to what I just brought up. I mean, he's been a puppet from day one. He has been somebody that was deliberately hired who has been easily swayed and influenced by those behind closed doors that are cutting the checks to turn the Big Ten into the enormous entity that it is. The example of this was how aggressive he was going after Michigan at the beginning of this issue, and then suddenly turning around and getting on his knees and praying and hoping that the NCAA does not give some big punishment to Michigan. He will do whatever's told to him. So I agree with that. But at the same time, Blake, I don't think he should be fired. I think that he's still done a relatively good job, minus this
name one thing proposal. He's done good.
Well, I mean, he's been at the forefront of some of the most successful teams that we've seen come out of the Big Ten in the last 10 years.
He has nothing to do with Ohio State and Michigan winning national titles. Sorry.
He's got
absolutely nothing to do with Ohio State spending over $20 million on a roster and Michigan doing what they did.
Fair. It's completely fair. I think that for the future of the sport, his experience is right for the way that these networks want to operate. And him being a former CBS guy and CBS having the Big Ten rights at the current moment, none of this surprises me. This plan's asinine, though. I don't think we need to fire him, but I think this is ridiculous. And I think it's ridiculous for a reason. I really think that this has gotten to a childish level of dicking around between Tony Petitti and Greg Sankey. That's what I think that we've hit. I think that Sankey and Petitti, we saw Sankey say, if we don't do what I want to do, I'm going to pick up my ball and we're going to go home and we're not going to play. We're going to stay at 12. We're not going to do any of this that you want us to do. And I think that now Petitti realizes, you know what, if you want to be such a big swinger out over here and make all these big statements and seem like you have all this control, I'm going to rally all the troops over here in the Big Ten and I'm going to get a vote from my presidents and we're going to create this insanely big, ugly monstrosity. And I'm going to see if I can get any support for it. And if people can support it, and here's the thing, Blake, we're talking about it. We're sitting here talking about it. We might not be supporting it, but we're talking about and taking this not seriously, but at least considering it in the discussion on if it's right for college football. I think he's screwing with Sankey. Sorry. No, that was my final statement. I think
the problem with the Sankey thing is Sankey, that gets taken out of context of what he said at SEC Media Days. He said at SEC Media Days that if we continue to expand, the regular season value goes down. And so that gets massively missed in what he said in all of SEC Media Days. He's right. I don't know if it's necessarily him trying to pick up his ball and run and say, if you don't do what I want. I agree with you that I feel like the way he worded it, it comes off that way. But the truth is, Joe, the most unique thing about college football has been every single Saturday matters, because if you lose, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. Again, I paint the picture. If Ohio State doesn't have a 12-team playoff, even though they won, they wouldn't have been the champion. They wouldn't have been. Not in the old model of the way that we did things. Now that we're in a 12-team playoff, they are. Everybody, I don't think anybody disagrees with a 12-team playoff model. Let me tell you what I think actually happened. Because I don't think that you go for a vote to propose this. Pete Thamel said it's early talks. You don't go for a vote if it's in early talks, because that means that you talk with 18 presidents. That means that he picked up the phone and talked to, at an enormous rate, 18 presidents. That doesn't seem in early talks to me. Now, maybe they mean it's in early talks because they haven't brought it to the playoff committee or the college football playoff. They haven't brought it to Sankey. They haven't brought it to anybody. Let me tell you what I think happened. He tried to do an AQ model, and that would have been a 24-game playoff. Would it not have been? A play-in game is a playoff to me. That got shot down by Sankey. Now what I think he's trying to do is and say, well, hey, if you don't want an AQ model and do the 24 teams through an AQ model and there be multiple teams playing on championship Saturday, why don't we just go to 24 then? Why not go to 24? You know, you tweeted something earlier yesterday that I thought was spot on. It's crazy how everybody looks down on what the FCS does, but that they keep trying to model what they're doing after them. What's even funnier about that is, but I don't give you credit enough, but it was a great point. Joe, people were arguing that the FCS did this in a 16-team playoff. Most fans didn't even know that they were at 24 teams. They didn't know. So the fans didn't even know about the FCS, and they keep clamoring over it. I think he lost with the AQ model stuff. Yormark and Phillips both went out on their media days and said they don't want the AQ model. They came out and said it. So now you get to a situation where Sankey says he doesn't want it either. Now they're trying to propose this. Here's the real truth. It's all about money for Petiti and not about what's best for the sport. That is the bottom line fact. He continues to make decisions based off of what he believes is best to do for money and TV organizations. Joe, you brought in a TV guy and didn't expect him to lean on TV. That's what we expected. It's not his job as the commissioner to try to expand the playoff. If there are discussions of people wanting to expand it other than him, then fine. But here's the bottom line truth too. Joe, he wants to go to a 7-7-5-5-2-2 model. That destroys the regular season. Destroys it. You do realize that multiple 8-4 teams are in the playoff, correct? I can lose 4 games in the regular season and I'm in the playoff.
Yeah.
By the way, let's throw this out there, shall we? You do realize in the other conferences what teams get in. The 5-5 is for the Big 12 and the ACC. Joe, they get 10 teams in. Are you going to sit here and tell me that you want to see 10 teams from those two conferences get in a playoff? Oh, and by the way, you still keep talking about player safety and kicking kids out for a half after targeting. You're adding more games. I think his AQ model got shut down. And here's the truth. Joe, all of these national guys that work for Fox, that cover college football, CBS, whatever, they were pushing for the AQ model. You got duped. You got duped. Because, again, the most unique thing that college football had going for it is the regular season every single week mattered. Every week mattered. So now what? This expansion talk is dumb. It is the dumbest thing that we've done. More than NIL in the portal. We keep talking about NIL in the portal being the biggest problem with college football. Got to be real with you. No, it's not. It's the commissioners and the TV revenue people.
Well, and again, I also come back to it's the commissioners and it's also the networks that are trying to influence these things, what's best for them rather than what's best for the sport. Just a quick reminder before I get my next take here, if anyone wants to bet on this year's college football playoff winner, you can do that over at FanDuel. The highest odds for a Big Ten team is plus 650 for Penn State. I think anyone was wondering. I think that the biggest part of this, and to bring back to FCS, no one should be in support of this. No one.
Do they? Yeah. Quickly, do they do an AQ model? You cover the sport. Do they do an AQ model? I don't think they do an AQ model, do they?
They do, but it's only one spot per conference winner, and then the rest of it's at large. But here's the problem that comes. I know that. So we have an example of if you're going to do 24. I know, right? If you're going to do 24, there's an example of one that currently works, and also it's proof that the automatic qualifiers for specific slots does not. At the end of the day, the same like 5 teams keep winning it. We always know that it's North Dakota State, South Dakota State, Montana State, or Montana that will reach the national championship. Before JMU moved up, it was them. App State was another one. Georgia Southern was another one. It's always the same teams until they move up to the FBS.
Sam Houston.
Yeah. There is no point to creating this expanded model for competition purposes. Does it create more revenue sharing opportunities and more money? Yeah. But just like they wanted to expand the March Madness tournament, there is no reason for improving the product and creating a competitive environment. There's no reason to do this. That's my biggest part with all this. Theories aside on why this is being pitched, no one should take this seriously is my biggest part, because this is not a serious model for what's best for the FBS. By the way, if we're moved that, we got to figure out a new name for the FBS, because it's going to be the FCS too. Like what the hell? It's not the football bowl subdivision. It's turning into the FCS.
I understand the argument from some people that bowl games are meaningless, but you're devaluing the regular season. You expand the playoffs to 24 teams. It doesn't really matter the 24 teams. You know who the best teams are going to be that are in there. Newsflash, just newsflash to everybody. Just because Ohio State lost doesn't mean that they weren't some of the best. Texas, Notre Dame, Penn State. Joe, guess what? We all knew going into the season that those teams were the most talented. Guess what? They pretty much all made it to the Final Four. Want to go to the Final 8? Because the other teams in that were teams like Georgia, teams like Texas, teams like Ohio State, teams like Oregon. Newsflash, Peter Pan. Newsflash. It is the same teams every year. So Joe, I don't think he has the best for the sport in mind. I don't. The AQ model is the dumbest model that we could possibly go to. I have seen people that I respect at the highest order. They want meaningful games in December and the beginning of December for a play-in. Then what in the Rudy Poo hell is the regular season in college football? Joe, let me ask you this. If you lose 6 games in the regular season in the NFL, does it matter?
No. Well, I mean, one of the best teams to win the Super Bowl and one of the most memorable seasons.
Or 8-8. They were 8-8.
Or 9-7, I think.
Or 9-7, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Again, that's the NFL. We're trying to get parity. By the way, Eli Drinkowitz brought this back up. So Marty and McGee released this, and he walked it back before the release could happen. People are only going to do what they think is best for their needs. This is what he thinks is best for his needs. I got to be real with you. Why are you pushing this so much? He is still yet to give me a real reason as to why he wants to expand. Joe, have you heard has he given you one reason like, oh, that makes some logic. That makes some sense. He also came out and said that the only thing that should matter is conference record. How dumb can this guy be? That means that Texas and Ohio State week 1 means nothing.
Well, and this is what I keep bringing it back to, is that this is an expansion upon what kills non-conference games, which is the best thing for the sport. We need to find ways to value non-conference games. We have to.
Who does Notre Dame play?
Miami.
Is that out of conference?
Well, Notre Dame doesn't have a conference.
Bingo. Thank you. Texas, Ohio State, is that out of conference? We're about to talk about that next. Is that out of conference?
Yes.
Clemson, LSU.
Out of conference. These are the best games of week 1.
Joe, you can make the argument that Texas versus Ohio State might be the best game of the year.
Yeah.
It's 1 versus 2. What are you talking about? Why in the hell would I go to Ohio State? Excuse me. Why would I go there? If I'm any team, why would I ever travel there? Why? You wouldn't do it. So then you're meeting everywhere in the playoffs. The NFL doesn't do that. Joe, I got to be real with you. When you see teams like Indiana and Nebraska and their presidents and ADs canceling games and scheduling weaker out-of-conference games, it seems like to me that there is some deeper-rooted stuff in this. Why would they cancel those games against other Power 4 opponents if that's not what Petitti was trying to lead them to do? How is it that Petitti comes out and says, hey, guess what? Conference record's the only thing that we're pushing for. Sounds good. Then we're going to cancel games out of conference against P4 teams. He had 2 teams in his own conference that did that, and USC tried to cancel LSU the year before. So we're getting to a point in time where, no, what it looks like that you're saying that we only want to do inside conference. Guess who gets all those games, by the way? CBS and Fox.
Right. And a lot of times if there were big matchups with all these other teams that were in the SEC and these other conferences, a lot of times those games do end up on ESPN in this circumstance. So yeah, dude, I'm telling you right now,
he's doing the bidding for CBS, brother. He's doing the bidding.
It can be easily discussed and tied back to the broadcast networks. But before I know that we've got the 2 games that we want to go to. We got a lot of
super chats.
Yeah, super chats that we should probably hit so we don't miss them at the end of the show.
Which one was the last one that you got to?
I got to both of Cody's. I didn't get to any of the other ones.
All right. So you got to both of Cody's. Brian in here with a $2 super chat says Michigan is the first 16-0 champ to beat the NCAA. They were 15-0. Thank you for the $2.
Well, no, the joke is that they also
I see.
NCAA. That's a good bit. I don't mind that.
Okay, I see what he's saying there. Alex with a $10 super chat and a member of the YouTube channel says, how can you say they cheated but not give a ban and say you don't want to punish players that weren't involved? Tell that to Akron, who they just hit with a postseason ban just in May.
It doesn't matter for Akron. Akron players.
But it should for Michigan. If you're going to hit Akron, you should hit Michigan with the same thing.
But this is my whole point. No broadcasting network. And you made this comment, Alex, before I brought up the whole broadcast network conspiracy theory. They don't give a shit what happens to Akron. They don't. They don't care what happens to those players. They don't. The eligibility thing, I will say at the very least, though, it's supposed to be an important part of the NCAA that, like, they have to value. If you're not taking the academics seriously, then you need to be held accountable for it. So it's a completely different issue, but at the same time, just like with the tennis thing, it doesn't matter if they punish Akron.
Brian with a $2 super chat says, already said this Weiss situation isn't football related. How is it not football related?
Well, because he wasn't doing anything that was affecting anything on the field. It was all.
If you are hired by an institution, that's why big banks get popped when they have insider trading from people inside their building.
Yeah, but what he was doing was a perverted, weird thing that he was doing, interacting with female students. That had nothing to do.
I'm going to say something and I might get canceled. Sandusky wasn't football related.
Actually, that's a good response. It's actually
Sandusky was not football related. Some of it did happen.
It's a very good response. I don't have a counter argument to that.
I mean, what are we getting at?
Yeah, I don't have a counter argument to that.
By the way, postseason ban. Clearly. I mean, you're talking
about
very
complicated issue, which is why we don't know what could be coming from that.
That's the point. That is the point. Dick Buck on YouTube with a $2 super chat says, Joe, in 2010, this would be a 2-year bowl ban.
Well, again, to reiterate, I think that we have to change the scope of how they're handling these things because it reopens litigation for them to get sued by the players for missing out on lawsuit. Yeah.
Let me ask you a God's honest question. If you're Hooker, and since it was determined by the NCAA that they gave South Carolina.
I'm suing. He better.
Do you see what I'm saying? Like, why wouldn't you? Joe, They had 12 games that season, clearly.
Yeah.
Did you know in 11 games their defense did not wear a wristband? Holly Rowe, it's on Twitter. I will find this for you. Holly Rowe comes out and says the week of Tennessee that they got wristbands. Go look this up, the South Carolina wristband game versus Tennessee. Go watch it.
No, you bring up a very important point. I think
they
that's
didn't
very
want to play Tennessee.
Yeah.
If I tell
you
that,
should.
Go ahead.
No, I'm saying you should sue.
I would.
Should sue.
All right, last one before we get to these two games here. $2 super chat from Elks, who says he's still better than Kevin Warren.
Kevin Warren sucked. He was a moron.
I mean, he canceled a half of a season, but he never expanded the playoff. He never tried to kill the sport, I guess.
Well, I don't know. He's a big dumbass. He's a dumbass. He mishandled COVID. It was a horrible reaction.
He did mishandle it. That is very true. All right. Let's get to it here. Since we're going to all over and we got 15 minutes, so this is going to be more than an hour show. Sorry for your voice. Any thoughts on Jam Miller? Any thoughts on Jam Miller from Alabama?
I think they're going to be fine. I think they'll be okay. I'm not particularly worried about. I haven't dug into this a lot, admittedly.
He broke
so I don't
his
know much of a
collarbone.
take. I know, yeah, and I think that their running back room's pretty deep. Again, I haven't done enough digging on this that I want to.
Is he back by Georgia?
Oh, they better hope so.
They better hope so. That would be the real thing. All right, Joe, we're going to do a part one of these series, these two games here. But week 0 is upon us, but we are kind of starting to preview some games here. Ohio State versus Texas, the SEC team that everybody thinks is going to win the SEC, goes up to Ohio State to face on the Buckeyes in week 1, arguably the biggest game of the weekend. Big noon kickoff will be there. Joe, your thoughts on Texas and Ohio State week 1 on how this one's going to play out?
Look, there's a lot of things that we can dig in with both these rosters, and I did a lot of that leading into this game. But, Blake, both of these teams are evenly matched. They have elite strengths and question marks that need to be resolved. Both of these teams come into a situation, and the line on FanDuel reflects that, being at 2.5 in favor of Ohio State, which means it's basically an even pick. Oftentimes, it's a 3-point spread for a home game. These teams are so evenly matched because you've got elite coaches, you've got promising young quarterbacks, you've got 5-star recruits filling in for guys that moved on to the NFL. You have a chance to put together special seasons. But I think, Blake, to just get to the point, I have Texas winning this ball game. And I think that it's because that there are a few more answers that Ohio State does not have going into this game. Texas has both of their coordinators coming into this, while Ohio State is resetting with a guy who's never coached college football, which Matt Patricia, it's been an advantage for Wink Martindale. I think it will be an advantage for Patricia, but there's going to be a feeling out period. You are in a situation where you're completely resetting in your running back room, and James Peoples and CJ Donaldson and Bo Jackson are a talented group. They got to get figured out, and you got to figure out what that mix is, and you don't even know what the production is going to be like. On top of this, I think that Texas's depth in the interior of their defensive line is going to be the biggest swinging point in this game. I think that we'll see an evenly close match game, but there's going to be a big stop that the interior of their D-line that can keep rotating bodies in, and the elite rushers that they have off the edge will make a big play as well. That's the separation point. And Blake, the final part for me, and I know that we can draw parallels with two inexperienced quarterbacks with Julian Sayin and Arch Manning. But we got to acknowledge that there's still a difference between the two. Arch Manning has stepped onto the field for big-time important games. Julian Sayin is not. Arch Manning has had exposure in full starts. He's got the chance to work through some of his kinks and issues. And most importantly, the big deal with Arch Manning is that he has had, Arch Manning has had, damn, I completely lost my train of thought when Blake left the show. We might have to revisit this. And Blake, you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Are you good?
I hope so.
We might need to tap out if your internet's not working after this preview, because I'm being completely honest. I don't know if I can keep talking if you leave again. I don't know if I can talk for like more than a minute straight. But to finish my point that I had before you left, Blake, I think that Arch Manning is a lot more embedded in the program than Julian Sayin is. And I think that that is an advantage that is going to boost them in this situation. Julian Sayin can be tremendous, but he's never stepped onto the field. And this is a very hostile situation to be doing so.
All right. Can you hear me? Yes or no? Can you see me?
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Am I frozen?
No, I can hear you.
Okay. I'm just making sure I'm not frozen and everybody can hear me and all that good stuff.
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. Joe, I do think that you're right on one thing. The two different coordinators coming in for Ohio State does bother me to some extent in reference to you're being put in a situation here with these teams that there's so many question marks coming into week one. The number one question mark coming into week one for both teams is how do you replace a lot of things defensively? When you look at them both defensively and offensively, there are a lot to replace. Texas up front, they got a lot that's coming back, but they're secondary. You look at the offensive line and running back room in reference to what Ohio State has to replace. Joe, the real question becomes, can you overcome? Because if you can overcome that, if you can overcome replacing that quickly and take on a team in Texas, who, by the way, I went back and watched that game from last year, the other night. Still a lot of those pieces. Matthew Golden's not there. That front seven for Ohio State's not there. And you brought up Wink Markendale as an example. Well, they didn't really get going until the beginning of this, right? Like they did not really get moving until the last couple of weeks when things really started working better for them. I look at this in the situation of who's got the least amount of question marks for me. Joe, I do think Texas has the best front seven in the country. I do think that you replacing two coordinators in Ohio State, especially when you demoted Brian Hartline, went and got Chip Kelly to replace him as the overall play caller. I would be a little bit worried because, listen, I don't know going into this game if they're going to be able to do that and they're going to be able to overcome it. So for me there, I look at both of those teams and say, who has the least amount of question marks? And for me right now, it's Texas. But you brought up both those quarterbacks. Joe, I don't know much about Julian Sayin more than I know about Arch. And so for that, I'm with you. I start leaning Texas in that regard too.
And I think that I think that like that uncertainty about Julian Sayin is something that does need to be discussed when we're doing this prediction. We're having this discussion. Alex brought up and said full starts versus Mississippi State and Rudy Poo State. He's never played a defense like OSU in an environment like the Shoe. He lasted one snap versus OSU. But at the same time, Sayin has not had any playing time. None. For young quarterbacks, there is a little bit of a lead up that is required to getting ready to be able to hit the ground running. We can't expect that he's going to play mistake-free enough football that there won't be an instance where something that he does during this game doesn't hurt them. He would need to do something that's unprecedented. It just doesn't happen in this sport that redshirt freshman hasn't been around the sport for that long. He hasn't been around as long as Arch Manning. And Arch Manning is no slouch. Even if Arch Manning is slow to get going, there is not a lot more, but slightly more talent in this situation that Texas can lean on, particularly their run game. If Julian Sayin's having a tough time throwing the ball and they bracket coverage over Jeremiah Smith, and I know that Brandon Inniss has been killing it in camp, but if they do a good job of bracketing Jeremiah Smith, it's going to be really hard for a guy who's never played before to adjust in that circumstance. When that happens, if you don't have the talent at running back that Texas does, it's going to be a lot tougher time, not to mention the fact that the interior of this Texas D-line is so freaking talented that they're going to punch you in the mouth and they're going to do everything possible to keep you from running the football. So I think that that is like the big swinging point for me and why on FanDuel I'm willing to go and take Texas money line and why I think that they're going to win.
It's interesting you bring both of them up because when you bring both of them up and you bring up Texas, you bring up Ohio State, and you bring up the quarterback situation, what running game do I trust the most? And when you have a good running game, a part of that, the part where I look at, and this being the kind of part one of us breaking this down, I look at this and say to myself, I feel like I just trust Texas up front on both lines of scrimmage a little bit more So if I'm able to trust them a little bit more up front, and I'm able to push things with them in the run game and defending the run, I think that's more than just a massive little thing there. Joe, the run game on both sides will be critical. We talk about quarterback play so much because obviously it gets the biggest hype. But when I look at this, I think whatever team's able to go in there and establish the run or do extensions of the run is going to come out of this. The Ohio State wide receiver core, though, I think could make a statement, and let me explain why. To look at Ohio State and talk about this game, Joe, you are replacing a really damn good safety in Makuba, and you're also replacing a very good safety or a really good corner in Barron. Joe, what if they're able to give Sayin time and he's able to find these weapons? That's where I think that they could separate themselves here, and why you can be in a situation where Ohio State can easily win this game because you're having to replace two very talented human beings, and now you're in a situation where, hey, I mean, if Texas has some crumbles in their secondary, they can win it. Joe, by the way, they're replacing a secondaries coach. They're replacing really good players.
Yeah,
I think that both teams have advantages in this matchup. The question will be whoever is able to run the football for me at the highest clip is going to be able to come away with this.
Well, I think that because we try to talk about in these previews that like this game is so close but I want to be perfectly clear, just because I'm picking Texas does not mean that I think that Ohio State doesn't have a shot. I again, these teams are so balanced that there's a strong argument to be made for both sides. The way that Ohio State wins this game is truly off of the production of their receivers. And as I mentioned, it sounds like Brandon Inniss is like emerging into the next insane star that they could have. And Carnell Tate's already tremendous. And we know that Jeremiah Smith's the best player in college football as a true sophomore, which is incredibly nuts. That and Muhammad's an awesome cornerback, former highly rated 5-star recruit. They have bodies, really talented bodies. It could be an uphill battle for that secondary if they're not able to slow them down this passing attack the way that they did in the Cotton Bowl. If Sayin can get into a rhythm early, and that I think needs to be an emphasis for this play calling and this offense overall, that receiver room could really take over. And if they do, and we see 100+ yards for Smith, and if Carnell Tate or Inniss pop off for 100-something yards, not to mention Max Clare, who's the best tight end in my eyes in college football that not enough people are talking about, that is where this game gets out of hand for Texas. Not out of hand, but that is where they lose this game. If you can't make those big stops, it means if it's coming down to a touchdown or a late field goal, you're not going to be able to get those stops late in the game. You just won't. The worst thing that can happen to you is when you have a young quarterback that you could take advantage of and that you can rattle, and it's not working because his targets are so reliable and they're so dominant.
Yeah, and Joe, here's the thing. The best pass rush he might see all year, meaning Sayin, may come week one.
Yeah.
And let me ask you this. Well, let me just say this because I know that you're fighting the voice on this.
Yeah.
The Brian Hartline thing scares me just as much as Matt Patricia does. I don't think that Patricia is going to be a bad DC at all. I do think he's going to implement a lot of really good things. They still got a lot of really talented players on that side of the football. I don't think that it's like we're rebuilding. I think they're reloading in some regards without the experience and without critical things. But here's the thing, too, that I want to throw out there. Joe, you demoted this guy. And you had some offensive struggles the year that he was your OC. What makes me believe that he's not going to have struggles now is how much is Ryan Day going to be involved in this play calling. But I say all that to say this too. Joe, are we 1,000% convinced that Sark and Texas can win the big one? The reason I bring that up and I ask you that is because I understand that they went into Alabama 3 seasons ago and clipped Alabama. But the question becomes, can they go into Ohio State and win? Like we bring up Texas a lot. They had a lot of wins, but they almost lost to Vandy. They almost lost to God bless it, Arizona State. They were unable to get over that hump against Georgia twice, where they only had 60 rushing yards in both games combined. So the real question becomes, Joe, can Texas actually get over that hurdle? Because until they can get over that hurdle consistently and not play these up and down games, and I know that Arch is going to be probably more than likely better than Quinn Ewers, I just have a question too of, can Texas actually go in the road and win this game and overcome that hurdle?
I think it's a fair thing to bring up because Texas does need, and Sark does need to start showing that he can pull off these important victories. And I think that he will. I really do. I think that we saw last year that he struggled against Georgia and he was able to survive against Arizona State. I think that he's shown that he's getting close. I really think that Texas is ready to start peaking and to start building towards being a recurring national champion threat. And I think it all starts with a great season from Arch Manning. The biggest part with this, Blake, I will say, the winner of this ball game has the most momentum to get to a national title. I think Ohio State loses this game. It just kind of reframes, hey, this is a 10-2 team that gets to the playoff that could hit a wall in the playoff. But if they win, a lot of the question marks and concerns that I have coming into the season are answered pretty quickly. On Texas' side, they get past Ohio State in a hostile environment. They are going to have a lot of confidence in themselves to put together bigger victories down the road. You're going to be able to look yourself in the mirror before a game against Georgia at Georgia and say, we went to the shoe and we won. We went to a really difficult situation and we didn't back down and we won that football game. I think that there is a lot to be gained from both sides based on who wins this ball game.
Final thing from me. I do think the pressure is all on Texas to win this. Okay. I think they got more pressure because, look, Ohio State's coming off of a national title. But number two, Joe, this is a mark for the SEC as well. The SEC needs this win based off of everything that happened this offseason. You're sending in a new member. You're sending in Texas to do it for you. And the ironic nature is a lot of people have them as what may be the conference champion. I'm pretty sure you're one of the ones that have them as the conference champion here. The bottom line remains for me in this is simple. I think that Texas is going to go in there and they're going to win. I think it's going to be close. I don't think it's going to be a dominant run for either side. But I trust that Texas can go in there and run the football more effectively. And more than anything, that's what I'm going to lean on for them to win it.
Yeah, absolutely. So are you siding with me, though? Are you going to take Texas money line on FanDuel? Are you going to do it?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
Are you siding with me? Are you going to take Texas money line on FanDuel?
I would take Texas money line on FanDuel, yes. I'll be real with you. I 1,000% would take not only the money line, I would obviously take the points too. If you're going to give me 2.5, you're damn right I'm going to take it.
Right. At least give them that, that little bit of a cushion if the game ends up being close.
1,000%. 1,000%. All right. Did you want to get to Notre Dame and Miami, or you want to punt it?
Do you think your internet's gonna?
I mean, I know that y'all can hear me, but I can't hear or really see any of y'all. I'm listening to us on YouTube and responding.
All right, let's get to it tomorrow, because if you disconnect again, I'm serious. Like, if I had to do another 7 minutes solo, I think like I would just slowly lose. Like, you wouldn't even be able to hear me by the end of my talking point.
Okay. Well,
so we'll get to it tomorrow.
All right. Well, sounds good. I'm literally listening to you on YouTube as we.
Okay. Yeah, we got to do it tomorrow.
All right. Well, we'll see all of y'all soon. I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on with the internet, but at least you were able to hear me and really get through it. So yes, I Joe, I've been listening to all of your takes on YouTube, and it's still a 30-second delay. So I'm like listening, and I'm like, okay, if you stop talking, then I'll get into it. But I do apologize about that.
No, it's all good. We'll be back tomorrow.
See y'all tomorrow. Peace.